Am I audible? Hello, hello. Testing 1 2 3 for the CU panel.
This meeting is being recorded.
हेलो हेलो टेस्टिंग 1 2 3 हेलो 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 कहाँ आ रहे हैं हेलो हाँ अभी आ रहे हैं 1 मिनट सर ज्वाइन करने दो
I, re-
आप
I request everyone to please settle down. We shall start shortly.
सर गुड इवनिंग सर सर यू आर म्यूट सर प्लीज अनम्यूट सर
Hi,
Hi,
can
sir.
you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Are you getting my voice, sir?
Yes, I am.
Sir, you are getting that presentation mode, sir. You are able to get this share.
Yes, I have.
If PPT, if any, sir, please.
I don't have any PPT now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All right.
सर को इधर से भेजो भेजो Aditi, stage is ready. You can start. Voice. Huh? Where am I meter? Anchor Aditi, please start. ठीक है नहीं तो हम तेरे खोज रहे हैं सारी मैच के देखे तो ऑडियंस के एक एक मुझे Where is Ram? Not that, not that. No one is sitting. Bipasha. 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 No one is sitting. आ जाएगा very nice. So should I start? Yeah, Jordan. Yes, I think we can start. Sir, live start go. Change go.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, sir. It is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panel for today's insightful discussion on navigating the new normal. Our speakers will delve into the realm of digital innovation strategies for sustainable growth in a world that is undergoing deglobalization. Each panelist brings a wealth of experience and unique perspectives to the table. Please join me in welcoming all of them. I request the dignitaries to please occupy your seats on the dais. Professor Chaudhary, ISB Hyderabad, Shri Anirban Bhattacharya ji, founder and chairman at Amplo Global New York, Shri Abhishek Chopra, sir, founder, CEO, and scientific officer, Boston Cube PSI, Shri Abhijit Datta, sir, Managing Director, Accenture. He will be joining us virtually. Shri Venkat Madhavel, sir, Executive Vice President, Group SCM, Amra Raja. I request Professor Nandan Chaudhary, sir, to kindly moderate the session and introduce the guests.
Good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible? Are you all able to hear me?
I
Yes.
can.
I must tell you, you will find this session very, very interesting. Those of you who are faculty and professors, you will definitely get a couple of years that you can do your research. That's for the professors and faculty. And those of you who are students, if you want to really kind of changes that are happening, not only in India, but all over the world, and how it's going to impact the industry, the society. If these are a couple of stuff you're interested in, then this panel discussion is for you. Now, I must tell you, we have a very accomplished panel. Let me start with Venkat Madhav. Venkat Madhav ji, left side, he is the president for Amararaja Group of Companies, president for supply chain, not only for the battery division, but also for all their groups. So he brings in more than 30 years of experience. And what is unique about uh, Venkat Madhav is that his knowledge of what's happening not only in India but in different parts of the world. I mean, he got huge knowledge. He has visited factories in more than 30 countries, and not only before COVID, also after COVID. Can you say that? Also after COVID. And the stories that you read in Google and global media, and also media in general, and the actual insights that Venkat would bring in from his real experience of seeing what's happening in different parts of the world, I think would make this particular session very, very unique. Then you have Andy. By the way, on the 15th of this month, 15th December, I was at Navi Mumbai conducting a program for uh, leaders of a big conglomerate. They came from different parts of the world because the company has got revenue which is more from outside the country than from inside the country. And discussing about the new type of challenges that companies face in India. Let me tell you, majority of the occasions when I talk to global leaders, right, I often find that there is a gap between understanding and what's required in today's context of deglobalized economy. So I met Andy on 16th. I flew down to Delhi to attend a book ceremony where he launched his book on the fifth industrial revolution and data economy, right? Very, very interesting book. So Andy, founder, uh, CEO, chairman of Amplo Global. Amplo Global is a US company which has developed a platform which leverages artificial intelligence, machine learning, and that platform helps you in developing strategy. And I think companies which are ambitious about ESG journey and they want to use artificial intelligence, machine learning as an enabler, I think Amplo Global platform is very, very interesting. I have been doing research with him almost for last 4 years. And I think a couple of things we're trying to do, they are absolutely new. We have Abhishek Chopra. Uh, Abhishek Chopra is, he's also based in US, both Andy and Abhishek, they have come for attending this program. I told them that if you want to really understand what's happening in different parts of the world and you want to get some insights on what's happening in a country which has got more than 1.4 billion people, right? India is the place to be. And you will have the pleasure to visit. I am Ranchi, right? Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Kolkata, you would know, but you may not know I am Ranchi. So it will be a great opportunity for you to come over to I am Ranchi. So Abhishek is here. Again, Abhishek is working in areas which would sound like scientific fiction, right? The areas that Abhishek is working, I have been working with Abhishek for almost 3 years now, and meeting him for the first time in person, right? I have I interacted with him at least 70 times, but I am Rachi is the place where I'm meeting him for the first time in person. Abhishek, nice catching up with you. Now, I must also introduce you to a very special person, right? Avijit Datta, right? We are not able to see the screen very clearly for whatever reason. So Abhishek Datta is the managing director at Accenture. That is a product of IIM Mumbai. And I must tell you that whenever I see my own students, right, taking positions which are very responsible and making an impact to make the world a better place to live, Abhijit is one of the names that come to my mind. So Abhijit is my student. Today he spent more than a decade at IBM, but he has got role, which is of managing director in India at Accenture. But at the same time, he has got several roles, which is at EU level. Well, that's the panel you have. Now, let me give you some context. Maybe I'll take 2 minutes. The context is the rhetoric of deglobalization has become very, very powerful. Everybody talks about today deglobalization. I remember till recently, whenever we went to address a seminar or a conference, we used to say the entire globe has become a village and we are a part of that small part of that integrated village. Now the rhetoric has changed. Even if I say the same stuff, people won't believe me because politicians across the world, right, have a rhetoric which they say we shall buy only from our country. We shall make only in our country. We shall export, but we shall not import, right? So these are kind of rhetoric. So even if I tell you that globalization is important for not only us, for everybody, you won't believe it because everyone else talking about deglobalization. So let's get started with the reality that people are talking about deglobalization. People are talking about not only products and services in terms of competitiveness in quality and delivery and price, but people are talking about your product got to be sustainable, right? If you really look at EU countries, these are not far off. They have decided that from next year, which is from 1st of January, companies of a particular set of companies, they got to track the emission level and carbon footprint, not only what they are directly responsible for, but also their supplier ecosystem. So if they have an MSME, which is a supplier to a EU country, and they have been doing a great job for last 30 years, now, from next year, if they want to supply to Europe, which is from 1st of January, then their carbon footprint got to be reflected in 2025 financial report. So we need to capture data from 1st of January onwards, which is not far off. So my first question is actually to Abhijit and Andy, and maybe I would ask Abhijit to speak first because he is virtually connected. I will be sure we're able to listen to him. And the same question also to Andy. So Abhijit, my question is, big globalization is kind of, let's take it, at least the rhetoric is real. My question is, when we are talking about deglobalization as a global rhetoric by many global actors, including in our own country, at the same time, we are talking about companies in different parts of the world, including having global aspirations. So our aspirations are global, but we are facing the rhetoric of deglobalization. So how should organization drive their global strategy in a world deglobalization is becoming a rhetoric? First to Avijit, then to Andy. Avijit, over to you.
Thank you. Do you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So thanks for letting me kind of open the topic on deglobalization. I mean, sometimes I substitute the word deglobalization with maybe slowbalization as well, because what I see is that economies across the world, whether it's the reason in political or localization interests, the effect is very real. I mean, we, I mean, the first fact is that in many of our reports, especially around if you do a kind of a chat GPT analysis of all the company reports across the world, what you will notice is two things. First, perspective from trade flows. Second perspective is on how the trade is shifting. So when I say trade flows, it's way back in 2022, probably the summation of all the reports would talk about a concept called onshoring to the extent of only 4%. But when you look at 2023, the we see the relevance of the word onshoring in many of the company reports across the world to the extent of 4%. That means there's a sharp increase in shifting things to more near shore or onshore, as we call it in the industry. So I come from IT industry, therefore the words onshoring and nearshoring are very common words for us, but the trend is real. In fact, when I look at my industry, the deals or the contracts that we sign today are more a mix of more onshore, lesser offshore, and to some extent even near shore as well. So which kind of talks about the propensity of every corporate to bring things back home. And sometimes we also see the trend of insourcing as well, because we saw the era of outsourcing, and today we are talking of insourcing back. If you look at the reasons why that is so, I mean, one is obviously the economy, and which I call as trade tensions. So whether it's US, whether they declare it officially or not, they definitely are in recession. Look at Europe, it's kind of distraught by war, whether it's the Ukraine or the Israel conflict, there is war. And as a result of which, the effect of the companies in terms of the strategy is to look at how they still maintain their supply chain. Because if you have to still survive in this uncertainty, you still have to maintain your supply chain. And that has an impact in terms of decisions where you source your materials and services from. And from a strategy perspective, every company is looking at it very intensely and trying to find out how to source differently than before, because realities have changed. Next is political shifts and nationalism. You talk about political reasons, and these have resulted in a lot of effects in terms of strategies or policies within the government and the countries. Take India, for example. We are talking of make in India movement, and there is a conscious effort to manufacture things right in India for materials or services that we typically outsourced in the past or procured from in the past. And looking at global economic certainty like COVID and stuff, it has taught us lessons, of course. And therefore, with all the mix of political or uncertainties in terms of pandemics like COVID or war, there is a conscious effort to kind of look and watch. So investment in mega deals or mega investments are becoming rare. You'll probably see more investments in terms of smaller chunks, prove the point, move on to the next, move on to the next. So basically, you are talking of more of a self-funding model where you start slow, reap the benefits, and with that benefit, you kind of invest further and further into your strategic objectives that you try to achieve. So I'll probably rest here in terms of the way I see, and obviously eh, these are things that are real for every corporate from a strategy perspective and execution perspective, and that's probably why making decisions at a very tactical level is important in terms of to align with the realities on the ground. But has trade reduced in terms of the quantum of trade? Answer is no. The It's just the trade has shifted from one place to the other. So that's how we see it. And therefore, for corporates to survive into the future, we also have to align with the trends that we see in the industry and take our decisions and put our best foot forward to survive. Over to you, Dr.
Yeah,
Chandrasekari.
so that's interesting. Andy, over to you. What are your views? Can you give a, is the other mic working? You have to press that one. Just
It's a long press, probably.
give it to me. Can you give it to me? Just see. Thanks. Yeah, just
So, thank you, everyone. I have a little bit of a cough, so hopefully I will be understandable. So I second what Abhijit said. I'm going to bring a little bit of a perspective with some examples, piggybacking on what Abhijit said. So I'll give an example of what Professor Srivastav said in the morning today. So strategy is nothing but a set of choices we make for competitive advantage. So we founded our company in 2018. COVID did not happen, and it's for us. It's all about globalization. And suddenly, when COVID hit us, for us, it's all about deglobalization and survival of the fittest. So what I feel, and it's completely my opinion, it is there can be disagreement, is a choice we make. So in 1930s, we suddenly made a choice during the Great Depression to be deglobalized. 2007, we made a choice to be deglobalized, right? So now we are again making a choice. So that's important to really understand. But those choices come from the points that Abhijit pointed out. So I'll give an example of deglobalization. So Cliff Bar is a California-based bar manufacturing company, and they get sunflower oil from Ukraine. So there is an ad in the sports channel about Cliff Bar where they talk about the best sunflower oil you can ever get from Ukraine. Within 2 months after the war started, a completely a deglobalized ad was on the TV that the best production can only happen in Bakersfield, California. They also provide sunflower oil to Cliff Bar. So, and that's how nimble they are to strategize and not to lose the market share. So that's an example I want to give that. And I love the way Dr. Srivastav talked in the morning about the choices we make, but also we are forced to make sometimes, right? The second point I would like to bring is the area that my company, our company works on in climate risk management, that is absolutely deglobalized. The solution that we provide to an Indian subcontinent, MSME, micro, small, medium enterprises, and an SMB in US, small to medium business, and the framework they apply for carbon border adjustment or whatever, emission, product carbon footprint, are completely different. That means for sustainability, deglobalization is a costly endeavor for us because we have to maintain two solution sets. But that's a demand we have to satisfy. There's another example I would like to give that maybe that's something we have to do to serve the necessity of the industry demand. And the last one I would like to also provide an example of how do we really embrace automation. So Industry 4.0 is a gangbuster success in the last 7 to 8 years. IBM made all their money on the Watson platform. Now suddenly the Watson platform is gone. IBM's strategy is changed. Why? Because Industry 5.0 has come, which is absolutely selective automation. Why? Because I do not want 100% automation. It emits carbon more than selective automation. So that also drives deglobalization. And poorer countries are coming up and doing better because selective automation has come into play. That's Industry 5.0. So think about the power of globalization as well as deglobalization. Thank you.
right. So maybe, I would now switch to Venkat. Before I ask my question, I want to just give you a real examples. Just before COVID, I went down south in connection with one of my research project on the fourth industrial revolution, visiting places like Coimbatore, Madurai, Karur, Tirupur. All these hubs are very, you have strong players in the textile industry, and then they do huge export. I remember companies telling about their supply chain, that their customer dictates that raw material must come from US. So raw material, which is cotton from US, cotton is converted into yarn in Madurai in one of the factories. That yarn goes to Germany, and over there, yarn is converted into fabric. And then the fabric goes to Austria, where you do the coloring and printing, and the final product goes to Africa. So you are touching America, you are touching Asia, you are touching Europe, you are touching Africa, 4 continents. Now, with this slogan of deglobalization, my question to Venkat is, so you have all these slogans of deglobalization, and you have supply chains which are global, right? What kind of challenges do you envisage? How can one assess risk, and what could be kind of probable risk mitigation plan? Have you personally faced anything like this? Over to you, please.
Thanks, Professor. It's a very tough question to answer because, um, as we all been uh, experienced, what the supply chain disruptions are. Um, Given the challenges will continue. Will continue. If at all we say that it's going to go in next decade, everything will come easy. I think we are fooling ourselves. It's going to continue. It's not only the aspect of raw materials. There are many things, right? Today, if you keep aside, as everybody knows, the difficulties of raw material sourcing and dependency, particularly from China and Western countries. But take, for example, I touch base your logistics. In the COVID, post-COVID, 12 liners has consolidated, and we have only 4 liners, right, who runs the entire global marine logistics. A day is going to come very soon where Chinese is going to capture our own entire logistics decision-making process. Or today, there is no Americans, there is no Australians, right? Out of 12, 4 consolidation, out of the 3 is Chinese and 1 is Europe. And I'm sure very soon that also will be taken over. So we will be only talking about raw material, but there are so many other logistics aspects, how metal can reach those aspects also. So given that challenge, right, for example, everybody's noticed recently the Red Sea, how the missiles attacked the Red Sea, the Suez Canal. We are very opportunistic and trying to even safeguard and help the manufacturing. Somehow our mindset is always take the benefit of opportunity and escalate the pricing. Now, people like, Maersk Liners are sending me a message that for US, it's going to take from 45 days to 65 days, right? My cost is going up by 12, even without saying sorry, but your consignment will reach. Unless otherwise we bring a change management as a very critical subject for change ourselves, the mindsets, it's extremely difficult, Professor, because sorry to say that I'm not coming from media information or something, I'm coming from very practical experience last 30 years, and it's never going to be easy. And if anybody is going to say India is going to be deglobalized in every sector in next 10 years, God bless India.
Right. So I think some very interesting, thought-provoking comments. I'd like to now go to Avishek, right? Avishek comes from Boson Q, and he did his undergrad and postgrad in US. And he flew down, as I mentioned to you, for this particular event. And many people in India say that, well, we have been talking about industry, academia, government collaboration since almost independence, at least from 1956. But is it happening? I want to tell, and I want to say it very loudly in this hall, that there are some fantastic examples of collaboration between government, between academia, and industry. So I'm right now driving five initiatives with four companies, and the funding, 80% of the funding for the research is given by Ministry of Heavy Industries, 20% by industry, and I'm there as an investigator from ISB running this project. A fantastic example of some of the real big problems that not only India is facing, but all countries in different parts of the world are facing. We are trying to really understand some of those phenomena. One of these projects we are doing with Abhishek, that's on multi-physics simulation. That's about, you know, how do you really do battery thermal management? And then some of the work that Abhishek and then some of the work that Abhishek are doing, very, very interesting because we're talking about not traditional algorithm that you all are taught in the classroom or we teach in the classroom, but quantum algorithm, quantum computing, how some of the big problems of the world in different industries like aerospace, like defense, like automotive, like biotech, how quantum algorithm is leveraged to solve those problems. And one of the projects that we are doing along with Ministry of Heavy Industries, ISB, and Abhishek's company, which is Boson Q, is solving some of the problems leveraging quantum algorithm. So my question to Abhishek is, when you talk about deglobalization and you look at challenges and opportunities because of deglobalization, what are your insights? And it will be good if you can tell your story of your own company and the problems that you are facing, and what are the challenges you see because of deglobalization? What are the opportunities you see because of deglobalization? Over to you, Abhishek.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. Uh, Great audience, and to answer Professor's question here, uh, I think of earlier in the previous panel, it was said that problems are local, solutions can be global. Uh, for me, I'm an engineer and a mathematician, so I break all problems down, whether it is for battery or for aerospace or for defense or for biotech, into mathematics. Now, this project is a great example from Ministry of Heavy Industries because it's tackling problem of EV batteries, which we saw with two-wheelers past year, and we needed a solution. Um, the same problem I can transfer back to US, where Tesla and some of the big players were trying to solve the same problem. So in India, the problem is more towards the operating temperature. In US, it has to do with nuances of manufacturing and charging. But the solution to both problems is mathematics. So yes, we are talking about deglobalization, but I understand that from the perspective of problems which can be local, deglobalized, solution which can be globalized. And one of the drivers which Abhijit earlier mentioned, which unfortunately is the war happening in the Middle East and the Europe. Think about the opportunities it is bringing up. Defense, huge sector where engineering, simulations, hardcore high performance computing, where the need of this high compute is needed, is coming up. But how many players in the world are really solving that? So the same example, the same mathematics which is being applied to batteries for a very commercial use case can be also applied for these defense sectors. The great example being LCA Tejas. I was in a panel in Sane Global Research Institute a few weeks back, and the chief from the DRDO came and talked about that LCA Tejas took about from 1993 to 2016 after the sign off to the sign off that it can be now started to manufacture. the 70% of that thing was R&D and engineer and simulations and engineering. That took the most amount of time. You go back to the example of F-35 in US, very similar timeline. So we are talking about two different, vastly different, markets, but the problems being local, the solution can be global. And that's where we, from BQP's perspective, are trying to think of these kind of indigenous problem in India, where one interesting aspect I want to share with all, I've been interacting with a lot of US, European companies, as well in Indian companies, Australian companies. And interestingly enough, India is no more just an IT hub. Many companies are putting their engineering R&D as well in India, which is a great thing, because I'm talking to Aerospace, Pratt and Whitney, I'm talking to BMW, I'm talking to Mercedes Benz, I'm talking to other aerospace, defense, automotive companies. They have engineering R&D centers in India. So when we are making this product, which is more global from US, my talent still sits in India. The folks that understand engineering, who's going to be using this for large corporations which are in US doing their engineering R&D right in here in India. So yes, we are talking about deglobalization. Maybe that is making these mini globalization opportunities possible. That is what our startup is trying to exploit, I would say, because earlier mentioned, at the end of the day, business is in the business of making money.
Right. So thank you, Abhishek. Just wanted to give you one more example. If you look at Alstom, today the team from Alstom, which is a French multinational, sitting in India, and their engineering trains not only for India, but for different parts of the world. They're delivering projects not only in India, but in different parts of the world. We have been working very closely with Alstom as a partner. Uh, Now, those of you who are students and you are hearing quantum algorithm and stuff like that, I want all of you to know that times are not far off where you'll find whenever you want to solve a complex problem, you don't use this kind of computers which works on 0-1 logic, right? Because in real life, the real life is not really what you can model in this kind of computers. When you toss a coin, in the end you ask, is it a head or it's a tail? But in reality, it's not head or tail. It's sometimes head, sometimes tail, sometimes neither head, not tail, and close to head or close to tail. So if you learn about quantum algorithm, you will be in a position to develop models which are more realistic, close to the natural phenomenon, and not just approximation. But we as scientists often develop models which are simplified because we know the constraints of computers that works on 0-1 logic. So I think in future you're going to read a lot about quantum algorithm, quantum computers available, on the cloud, and you are solving problems which are complex problem. Because today when complex problems come, like forecasting weather or figuring out when we are going to have flood or understanding the phenomenon of cancer, we have a problem because our problems we're not able to solve because our models simplify the problem. And we simplify it because we want to run the program quickly. Otherwise, you're going to sometimes take some of the problems. It takes 30, 40, 50 days. I'm sure, you have experience because you have been working in this line. So I'm sure those of you who are students, you must read about quantum algorithm. I move to the next question. My next question is to Abhishek, to Abhijit. Abhijit, my question is to you. You come from a company which has got presence all over the world, and then you have the challenge of mobilizing talents. Now, not only you have, all companies have the challenge of mobilizing talent. So, when we talk about deglobalization, uh, what kind of impact do you see of deglobalization on acquisition of talents for projects which sometimes may be global?
Fantastic question. And I think that's a good segue in terms of looking at the effect of deglobalization in even in the talent acquisition part of it. And especially if coming from an industry which is people based, because we have no physical assets, people are our assets. And therefore, we depend a lot on human talents. Of course, talk about Gen AI and all those stuff. I'll come to it a little later, but I think let's look at the effect of how the talent is evolving. Because if you go back, we might have heard the phrase, be a jack of all trades, right? So we heard our parents tell that to us. But today, when I speak to the next generation, especially the students and the Gen Z, as I call it, I tell them that phrase, jack of all trades, does not hold good anymore. You have to be jack of all trades, but master of something. And that master of something depends on the specialization or core competency. And if you apply it in the wider talent base, we go back to the famous Porter's model of core competency. In other words, you still would look for talents with a core competency, but the ability to kind of be the jack of all trades as well at the same time, as I see. Therefore, what we today see is much more cross functional ability within the talents that we need to acquire. Gone are the days where we look for very specialized talents. Yes, we do look for specialized talents, but we also look for the ability to kind of flex to other areas wherever required. And in our IT industry, we have a typical concept, we call them as full stack engineers. It doesn't mean really the engineering part of it. The very concept lies in the fact that someone who's able to understand the requirement, able to do the coding part of it, as well as build it, deliver it, and maintain it as well. So that means you're basically running a scenario where talents are expected to be end to end and kind of a service oriented talent. And therefore, that mindset or the agility that we talk about is to be inculcated into the talents that we build for tomorrow. So, obviously, we need all the specialized skills that you pick up from your institutes or B schools, wherever you come from. But it's the continuous journey of learning and unlearning that has to happen throughout, because technologies are changing every day. The way we deal with a problem is changing every day. And you just heard people talk about the effect of deglobalization in terms of how you have to think global but act local. That means you have to have the agility to kind of look at it from a 10,000 feet, but at the same time, swoop down at the 100 feet level and deliver it on the ground. And today is a world of digital era. So strong foundation in digital literacy is essential. I don't mean that everybody has to be a IT expert. No, that's not the idea. You have to be proficient in using the digital tools that we kind of bring to you in terms of solving a problem. Look at our kids today. They are more proficient in navigating through the mobile phone, for example. Okay, whether it's a 1 year old kid or say a 70-year old grandfather that we may have, they still have kind of adapted, and human beings will adapt. And that is the key here, that we have to start g- adapting to the changes in a much faster pace than yesterday. The take for example, in the IT industry, we are seeing the advent of Chat GPT, and there is a common question being kind of passed around when we talk to our CEOs of our clients. How will Chat GPT Im- impact my industry? Okay, for example, if I talk about my own industry, there are certain skills like coding we do. I mean, we have developers who start developing codes, but today we delegate or relegate that responsibility to the ability of computing power in the machines that we have built. Second, we have also kind of built up the ability to make decisions within machines. And therefore, the advent of whether you call it big data or AI or ML or the new chat GPT, as we call it, they will kind of automate. But remember, it will not automate 100%. It cannot automate 100%. There are certain things that are going to be automated in the future, but human beings will still need to tailor the final solution to the needs of every local solutions that we have to deploy on the ground in a delocalized globalized scenario. And that is what I will probably say as one, and strong foundation in digital literacy. Second, adaptability, agility, cross functional collaboration, and most important, data driven decision making are the four key things that will drive our talent acquisitions of tomorrow. So that's what I will summarize the question with. Over to you, Chandan Chaudhary.
Okay, thank you, Abhijit. Some very interesting insights. I would like to get back to Venkat. Now, see, if you really look at our supply chain, the supply chain of many companies are actually global. At least when you talk about different members of the value chain, some of the members will not be within your country, but outside your country. So you have this topic of deglobalization. At the same time, your supply chain is often global. At least many members are part of global ecosystem. So uh, you have been doing a lot of digital innovation in your organization. So I want to know some of the specific examples, if you could give. What kind of digital innovation have you done? What are the challenges have you faced when you deployed it? What has been the kind of benefit? So it'll be very good for all of us to really listen to what kind of digital innovation Amararaja Group has done. Over to you.
Yeah, luckily, I've been working with the third promoters now, third generation promoters. Way back, if you see 90s, we have enterprise resource planning, ERPs, as many of the students are aware of, where we used to look upon the CEO or the IT department does the job for us. Now, the scenario entirely changed. Now, unless you have analytics on your table, on your desktop, it's impossible to take any strategic decisions. Today, we have at least 56 countries we export our product. We get at least from 20 countries we get import our raw materials, and we have partners, Johnson Controls from US. All the interactions at one point in time. We were with SAP. Thanks to Accenture, they have done for us for HANA S4, which was the main engine for us. And we have done because some of these products, when we look upon Mr. Chandan, none of these can meet our requirement 100% as what we would like. Because some of these products are designed globally. It's very, very important, very difficult to bring the internal change management. Hence, this manufacturing system entirely works different. And most of the IT people, when IT people like Accenture or any of the implementation partner comes, it's extremely difficult for us to work because everything we would like to have user friendly to our local, requirement. So what we've done is today we went for SAP Ariba. We went for transport module of SAP. we went for customer relation management CRM. You ask any function, it's now digital. Now it's a very challenging from responsibility because you are working with the third generation promoters. They're much more calculative than the previous. That's my experience. Where your ROIs will be asked for when you ask for budgets, right? So somebody wants 2 years, somebody wants 3 years. So anything beyond 3 years, it is not viable in their mindset. It's extremely difficult to get those ROIs. It's very important that one has to note somebody has to have a minimum of 5 years horizon to have that ROI for at least to have the break even. Given that experience, today it is helping a lot because every year now the budgets are increasing. Earlier, we used to have technology as one of the biggest budgets. Today, the IT is becoming one of the key budget, which any company, to my experience, is spending not more than 6 to 8% now as a minimum, because everybody wants ease of doing things. Everybody wants transparency and visibility in terms of their decision making process, and nobody want to dependent, and everybody want data in less than few minutes. So given all that, digital is definitely helping, but it is not a cakewalk. It is not a cake just to eat. You need to own. Your CIO, your IT department will be a facilitator. I'm just telling to the students who want to look for manufacturing as your future employment. This is a fact of the ground where you cannot be. I want to be an IT professional. You cannot be one stream of expertise. You need to have that cross-functional domain, right? When you go to a tailor, right, you just stand there. He take his own measurements unless you talk something, right? So then after fitment is over, you cannot ask him to restitch. It's like that, right? You need to be every day. You need to part and part of that. You have supply chain metal not coming. You will also, because you want digital, you need to also from supply chain shift your gear to an IT professional, and you need to work closely with your partners. Otherwise, you will take it from me. You will not get what you want. But what is missing? The, there is no right product. There is no right product. Sorry to the IT folks here. There is no right product. The guy who want to sell the product, he knows only 50%. The guy who want to implement the product, sorry to other folks, they only know 60%. But what we want is the last bite of the toothpaste. Whether you use that future or not, you want to enable every future. Because after 1 year, people will go to the other project, you will get handicapped. The boss will ask you, where is your ROA? So within that time frame, you need to make sure that guy has to give the last bite of the toothpaste, which means every future of that you need to enable, whether it's in practice or not, which means you need to change your business process. That's where the promoter, the entire management has to come in picture, because organizations do work. Because imagine today, my finance folk bought some product. I need to integrate, align that product with my product. Tomorrow, if this is an efficient product that what I am using it, that product has to be absolute, which he will not agree. So I need to bring change management. You need to be continuous ambassador, which I am doing last 2 years, even before. Continuous ambassador to make your project success. Sometimes you forget your mainstream of your responsibility. You make this possible because there's a lot of things. Go live, after go live, adoption, then somebody will measure you what is the percentage of adoption, what is not happening. But in entire stream, what is important, what I've seen, you need to bring all your stakeholders. Only having internal employment, your own colleagues, your own employees doesn't help. You need to bring across your supply chain ecosystem or entire, you need to bring customers on board, you need to bring vendors on board, you need to bring entire stakeholders on the ground, which is challenging, but there is no second choice. You have to go.
Right. Yeah. So, Andy, now over to you, right? So, by the way, I wanted to ask you to know that today many companies, not only abroad but also in India, when they buy your product, We are very particular to understand your carbon footprint, whether you like it or not, right? So this is becoming a very interesting trend. I would like to know from Andy that so this in one side is the demand of customers. They want products which are sustainable, in addition to whatever they have been expecting in past. So what kind of challenges do you see for the companies, let's say in India or also in other parts of the world?
Another good question. So, in the era of deglobalization, uh, gets the most brunt of the confrontation, that's manufacturing. And here's why. If you really see the overall automotive industry, I will take an example of the automotive industry. So European Union has released more strong regulations on July 13th of this year, that if you get anything from your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 outside the European nation, and also UKI, which is United Kingdom and Ireland, because Brexit has happened. That's also deglobalization, by the way, Brexit. So you have to absolutely follow the regulations. It's called CSRD. CSRD. You can Google about it. So, but you're working with the European nation and you have to follow CSRD, and the supplier is sitting as in India. And the Indian supplier has also have Indian customers and Singapore customers and maybe Far East customers. So the challenges that we are seeing is, yes, there is some standardization to record the product carbon footprint, let's say for a ball bearing and or maybe other wire harnessing products. But after 60-70% of standardizations, 40 to 30% becomes what I am calling localized requirements. And if you do not embed to that supply chain or value chain agility, it's a big challenge, because then the customer in European nations would not buy the product from you, because their target is to keep the cost down. Plus, you have to have a product carbon footprint captured from the supplier. Now, another interesting challenge that we see is the local manufacturing workers in India as well as abroad. Because manufacturing workers are generally from an union. They do not want to capture more than n number of seconds of data because their bonuses are associated with that number. How do you convince them to capture more carbon data in that time span, or negotiate to have a different compensation plan? So it's there are lots of challenges that we are seeing, Professor. It's a couple I give an example.
Right. So, friends, I understand there'll be tea break very soon. I would like to open up the next 8 minutes for question answer. Any question? Anyone have a question? Any question? Yeah, please take a mic. Can you help him to grab a mic?
Hello, yes, sir. I would like to know how outsourcing comes into play when we talk about globalization and deglobalization. Because outsourcing is something that takes something from one country and puts it into another country while still having the original one's name. So how does that factor into this process?
Yeah, who would like to take it? Who would like to take it?
I will give a short first, and I
Yeah.
will hand over to both of you and Abhijit as well. So I think Abhijit started this topic of outsourcing from an IT perspective. So your question or rhetoric is that outsourcing happens, but the origin remains same, right? I will give a perspective from, let's say, from ESG perspective. So when an outsourcing is happening, a product is moving from a country of origin to a country of taxation, right? Because you're selling into that country. So the way the revenue would look like is different, and the cost of production is different. So outsourcing actually needs integration. Outsourcing is actually globalization too, because integration is globalization. Globalization is integration. So outsourcing means I have a resource in country A, that resource can work. Resource can be anything, right? It works in country B, right? So outsourcing plays a role in globalization. That will be my take. Am I answering your question? I mean, is that your question?
So my question is that I have absolutely agree with you, but when we talk about deglobalization, how do we look at outsourcing? Is it a threat? Is it a problem? Is it an opportunity? What
Eh,
is it?
I mean, for sustainability is definitely an opportunity, I would say. But from an IT resourcing, it's nearshore happening. But I will let the others answer. But for ESG, is definitely an opportunity. We can talk about it.
Yeah. So let's combine the next two questions. The next two questions. Let's combine, and whoever feels comfortable could answer. Next two questions.
I can probably build on what Anirban said. So
Yeah.
outsourcing necessarily does not necessarily mean shifting of a country location as well. Okay. And I go back to the same topic that I just mentioned, the core competency model. Say, for example, if as a corporate, yesterday I was doing everything in house, right? Right from my payroll processing, right to the manufacturing, right to the R&D, right to the distribution and supply chain, marketing, promotions, etc., etc. Today, I terms of what exactly am I kind of most competent in, and that gives me the best bang for my buck, as I call it. And I would rather focus on that and kind of delegate or relegate that responsibility of something that is not necessarily my forte to somebody else. So, which means that I can be in India manufacturing anything, but I can still get my payroll processed by another entity within India itself. So it's again the question of competency, core competency, and and combining it together, it has to make ultimately a value proposition. In other words, the customer gets it at the best price, at the best quality, and for me who's running the business at the right cost and margin, because I'm also here to earn profit and do business and grow. And therefore, it has to make a win-win story for everybody. So outsourcing is, if you look at it from one perspective, it could be a pain. From other perspective, you look at it as a boon as well. So that's how I see it.
Right. So I think, we are running short of time. We are left with 2 minutes. So I would like to hand over to the organizers. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. I request Professor Natarajan to please come on the dais to felicitate our speakers. I request sir to felicitate Professor Chandan Chaudhary, ISB Hyderabad. Sri Anirban Bhattacharya ji, founder and chairman at Amplo Global New York. Sri Abhishek Chopra ji, founder, CEO, and scientific officer, Boston QPSI. Sri Venkat Madhavel sir, executive vice president, Group SCM, Amra Raja. And I extend my heartfelt verbal gratitude to Sri Abhijit Datta sir for joining us virtually. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Sir, I request you all to please stay for the group photograph. We are heading for a tea break and we shall meet right after 15 minutes. Thank you.